Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name is Monica. In today's video, I am going to be doing a collaboration video with Bex from Beccie. She asked me to be a part of the ABCs of Love book recommendations. So here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you the letter of the alphabet. I'm going to tell you who the character is, why I love the character, why I love the book, and just leave it at that. Without further ado, let's get into the books. So starting off strong is A, and that's Arden from Beautiful Exile by Catherine Cowles. This is her latest release, and it is a romantic suspense. Arden is a woman in hiding, and she witnessed her parents' murder, so she is trying to hide from the gut. She's trying to hide from the people who want her dead because she's a witness. And she ends up with the Coulsons, and she meets Lincoln, and the way they meet, she's such a strong character. She holds a knife to Lincoln's throat when he surprises her while she's practicing. She is an artist. She has empathy, she has strength, and she can give as good as she gets. She is a badass. I absolutely love her. I love her characterization, and I love her romance with Lincoln is the billionaire who she fell in love with, that she didn't want to fall in love with. He owns the hockey team that her brother Cope is playing on. It's the Seattle Sparks. And I love their banter. I love their wit. I loved everything about their story. The suspense plot made sense. I enjoyed it, and I highly recommend you to check this one out. For B, I could not talk about was Beatrix Holloway. She is in the Hathaway series, and her book is Love in the Afternoon, but we start seeing her in Mine Till Midnight. She is the youngest of the Hathaway siblings. She has trauma from her parents both dying. She gets into this fugue states where she just randomly steal things and stuff that like paper clips, bobby pins, but it's stuff that could get her into some major trouble, like snuff boxes or cufflinks, glove, or whatever is when she gets into that fugue state. So that's part of her characterization, but she also loves animals. She relates more to animals than to humans. She even has a pet hedgehog named Matilda. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. And I love her romance with Christopher. Captain Christopher Phelan. I think it's the Crimea War. I think that's what it was. He was in the Crimea War. He was fighting against the Russians, and he came back. He was very arrogant and obnoxious when he left, but then he came back very wounded, and he had PTSD. But they were writing to each other. He thought he was writing to her friend, when in fact he was writing to Beatrix, because Beatrix, she felt bad for him because her friend was gonna stop writing to him because she's like, all he wants to do is talk about war. That's no fun. And so she starts writing to him, and they fall in love through those letters. And then he comes back and he tries to court her friend, and then he realized something is amiss. And it goes on from there. I highly recommend this book. I love Beatrix's character. She is not ballroom material. She does everything to help animals and to help people, and I absolutely love her. She's my favorite character in the Hathaway series. So let's go into C. C is Cal from In Good Company by Kat Singleton. This is her newest book that she just put out, and it's a new series, and I think it's the Pembroke. It's a Pembroke series, I think that's called. Anyhow, he is a billionaire, and our heroine Lucy, she dated his younger brother, and they broke up. Well, she works at the Pembroke, I want to call it the Pembroke Hills Country Club, where he's a member, and this is an exclusive country club. She is also a private chef. They reunite when she's talking to one of her clients, and it's someone that he's on a business dinner with that he doesn't particularly love. He's like, I know you, and he does everything he can to get her into his house. He puts his private chef on vacation, a full paid vacation plus wages, and then he hires her for double the wages. Plus he supports her everything she wants to do, because she wants to make videos, cooking videos, and she's just so camera shy that he helps her by not only buying all the equipment she needs, but being in the videos with her while she's cooking. So she's teaching him how to cook on video, so she gets to have this thing that she wants to do. And he just falls hard and fast for her, and there was nothing he was going to do for her, including supporting her, even though it would hurt him in the end listen, this book is fantastic. He is such a good book boyfriend. I absolutely loved this book. I loved Cal's character. He's so fantastic. I highly recommend this one. So moving on to D, I have to give it to Raj Kumar from Don't Hex and Drive by Julia Cross. I love this book so much. It is one of my favorite books in the series. Raj is a vampire, and he was also a Bollywood star, and he loves his fast cars, and he's also, I want to call him a tracker, but I know that's not the correct name. So there is a correct name for it. I just can't remember it. But anyway, he hunts bad people. So he's there on Ruben's request to help find vampires who are drugging women and kidnapping them. And he accidentally hits Isadora with his car. And she's very much a homebody. She loves her sister. She loves her plants. She loves her animals. And when he hits Isadora with his car, when she's on a bike, she immediately has a very strong reaction to him. She gets very angry with him for that. I love this book so much. I mean, he did everything that he could to make sure that she was protected. He was very possessive over her, especially towards the end, and he has fun with her, and he helps her grow and get out of her shell and stuff. And I love him. He is very suave, very smooth, very dangerous, but only to people who really do bad things. And he's kind of a dichotomy because I want to say he's vegan, but yet he has that blood to sustain him because he's a vampire. He's a turned vampire. And he's also very flirty, which makes her off keel. I love it. I love this book so much. I highly recommend this one. Even if you didn't like Wolf Gone Wild, which fine, you should definitely continue on in this series. And Don't Hex and Drive is the next book in the series. So moving on to E. So I had to give it to Evan Bailey. This is from, so moving on to E. So moving on to E. Evan Bailey from Unraveling Him. This is book 3 in the Bailey Brothers series. This book, listen, the town of Tillicum, if that's a fictional town, but if it was real, I'd go visit it because of the Havens and the Baileys and their little feud and the squirrels, and it just sounds like such a fun place to be. He's such a grumpy mechanic, and he restores old cars. He meets Fiona when she's her whirlwind self. She comes in all sunshine with her plants. Fiona left her father because her father was having an affair with her friend, and she's like, no, peace out. She's out. She ends up going to Evans because she needs help with her car. She's known him through business transactions from her father, and she's like, I can get you what you need for this one car. I just need a place to stay, and I need help with my car. And so he's like, fine. And she invades his space, and he's very grumpy about it, but then he's not grumpy about it, and then he gets very protective over her, and I just absolutely love him. This is like grumpy sunshine perfection. I love how he is with Fiona and how he's with his brothers, and even with Luke Haven. You find out in Whispers and Wildflowers that Evan and Luke end up having a truce, and the whole rivalry ends. But in this book, the rivalry is strong and is so good. He's so protective and growly over Fiona, and I just absolutely love him. He's a well-written hero, so I highly recommend that one. So moving on to F is Francesca Bridgerton. She is from When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn. This is a Bridgerton book, and we haven't had their season yet. And if you know anything about what happened at the end of season 3, people were upset because she married John, and then she met Michaela, who was supposed to be Michael Sterling. So in When He Was Wicked, we open with Francesca being married to John, and she's happily in love and married to John. John suddenly dies, and she becomes a young widow. Through the book, though, we find out that she has fertility issues, and Michael Sterling has always been in love with Francesca, and so that's why he stayed away. He went to India because he just couldn't see his cousin John be happy with Francesca because he loved Francesca. And when John died, he became new lord because Francesca was never able to bear a child of her own. Anyhow, he comes in, and she's still there, and it is their romance, and it is this one is probably the most smuttiest of them all, but it's also the most passionate one. He tries to be there for Francesca. Francesca is such a strong character. She goes through a lot. She loses someone who she's loved very much. She cannot have children in the book. But then she's fighting her attraction to Michael after her husband's passing. But she just fell head over heels in love with Michael. This was more than a love match. This was more like soulmates, because she had a love match with Michael. It doesn't mean she loved John any less. The thing is, and this is going to come up when her season comes up, because they switched, and honestly I don't really care about the switches that they make, because people loved Michael so much, because Michael is such a good hero, and the way he helps and loves Francesca, and the way Francesca takes care of him. I absolutely loved Francesca's character, and I loved Michael Sterling. So it will be interesting to see how they handle their storyline, especially the infertility, when this becomes a big thing in her storyline. But if you haven't read When He Is Wicked yet, you absolutely should. All right, moving on to G. And I kept going back and forth with this one, because there's two that I was thinking of, and then I was thinking of another one, and then I was thinking of another one. And so ultimately I had to make a decision, and I am going to give it to Grace Ivers from The Mistake. This is book 2 in the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. This is a new adult hockey romance. I loved Logan. Logan is very damaged. He had a ill-conceived crush on Wellesley from book 1. Grace, by chance, meets John Logan when he is going for a hookup at her dorm. He gets the wrong room, and she's a freshman, and she is watching some action movies, and he loves action movies. So they end up laying in her bed, eating candy and watching action movies, and he puts the moves on her. So they end up meeting up a few times until he gets really nasty with her, because John is very much a traumatized character. There's a lot of stuff that happens to him, but Grace doesn't. She gets hurt by the end of her freshman year from John, and then then she leaves and go to Paris to visit her mother. There she really grows up and matures, and she comes back, and John Logan is like, I made a massive mistake with the way I treated Grace. And she doesn't count him. She puts him through his paces. She's like, you got to do all this stuff to really show me that you do in fact love me. And he does. And she was very resistant at first, because she's like, fool me once. Okay. So she didn't take him back right away. She made him work for it. And that is a strong heroine. I absolutely loved her. I loved her characterization, and I love this book. And I feel like it is one of the more underrated books in the Off-Campus series. For H, I have to give it to Henry Blackwater in Grimm and Barrett by Juliet Cross. This is the last book in the Stay a Spell series. Clara knew that her and Henry were going to be together, so she can see some stuff, but she's always known that Henry was for her. And Henry, who is a Grimm, he's very traumatized what happened to him. He was thrown in, he can call people from the netherworld, right? And that's how he can solve crimes and stuff. However, someone very evil threw him into a hellish pit where he was being tortured and traumatized by these demons. And so he gets out because his father gets him out, and he wants nothing to do with his father. He wants nothing to do with his gift, and he ends up blocking it for a long time, which makes him depressive and very moody. That he's a virgin hero, but he knew that Clara was for him too, so he started getting himself ready for her. He would follow her vlog and always comment on her vlog, and then he joined her historical romance book club, and he was very grumpy. She was very sunshine, but he also was so protective over her, and where he ended up having to help his father with something, and he did it. And I absolutely loved him. I loved how he went out of his way, even when he had to combat his demons from what happened to him when he was a kid, just to be able to be with Clara and to have her and to keep her when bad things happen. And I love him. He, like I said, virgin hero. He built her a library. He gets a Prince Albert piercing because he knew she would like that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, he was quiet, he was very introverted, but he was a genuinely good, well-written character. I absolutely love him to pieces, so I had to put Henry Blackwater on there. So moving on to I is Isaiah Rhodes from Play Along by Liz Tom 40. This is part of the Windy City series. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time talking about Isaiah Rhodes because I think we've all read Isaiah Rhodes, but I love him with Kennedy. I love how he supported her and he loved her, and he really did wait for her when she was engaged to the wrong person and all the stuff that happened with her family, and he didn't object to her coldness. He embraced her for who she was. He did what he needed to do to protect her. I absolutely love this book. I love Isaiah. He's such a strong hero, and he supported and loved Kennedy for who she was, which I can't really say much more than that about him. So anyway, moving on to J, and that is Jennifer Sylvester from Beard Science, and this is in the Winston Brothers series by Penny Reed. She blackmails Cletus Winston and actually gets away with it, which is a huge feat in and of itself. So if you don't know about Cletus Winston, he's this mad science genius, but he's a mechanic and he acts stupid. He acts stupid to throw everybody off, and he threatens to give everybody leprosy through armadillos, which is kind of funny, but he plays around with other people to get them to do what he wants them to do. But he's also a genuinely good guy where he will help other people out and he will not take credit for it. Anyway, he is trying to take down the Iron Rights because his father was part of the Iron Rights, and he hates them because his father was so evil. Jennifer Sylvester, her father was also very evil, but he was a pillar of the community, and he was ultimately very abusive to her and her brother Isaac, which we find out later in his book. So she is the banana cake queen. Her mom makes her have blonde hair, and she dresses up like a 1950s housewife until she's like, I don't want this. I don't want to be the banana cake queen. I want a husband. I want children. I want a family. And nobody takes her seriously because she's the banana cake queen. So she finds Cletus doing something illegal. She accidentally records him doing something illegal. So she uses it to get him to help her get a husband. That's how she blackmails him. And so he's like, he thought she was dim-witted, and then find out she is actually very clever. And I love their dynamic. I love how they're dynamic. I love how she's like, you're gonna do this for me, or I'm gonna turn you in to the sheriff. And he's like, fine. And he's trying to figure out how to get her back for blackmailing him, but he ends up falling in love with her. And it's fantastic. I love that she had enough guts to stand up to do what she wanted to do, and he helped her to throw off the facade of the banana cake queen as the 1950s pinup housewife that her parents forced her into. And I absolutely love this book. This is probably the strongest book in this series, and I love Jennifer Sylvester. She is a great heroine, and I highly recommend this book. So moving on to K, I have to say Kingfisher from Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. So Kingfisher's the ultimate shadow daddy. He gets called the Quicksilver inside him, which makes him go mad if he doesn't have the amulet. He gets called when Sirius, I think that's Cyrus, I don't know how to say her name. So she calls him when she calls through the Quicksilver, because she can talk to Quicksilver, and he comes in and saves her life because she's about to be executed. He knows for a fact that she is his soulmate, and he's like, my soulmate is a human. What is going on with this? And he helps her train herself to be able to work with the Quicksilver safely. And the way they work together is fantastic. He is definitely the ultimate shadow daddy. He does everything he can to make sure that she's safe, especially at the very end when everything starts to go down. And I cannot say enough about this book, but I also know that you guys have all probably read it by now. So I'm going to move on to L, and it's Luke Haven from Whispers and Wildfire, Clara Kingsley. This is her newest release. This is a romantic suspense, small town. Melanie was his girlfriend, and they both agreed that they were really immature and really stupid when they were younger. They end up breaking up, and she leaves, gets married, and ends up getting a stalker. Didn't realize she got a stalker, and she comes back after she divorces her husband, and she ends up working for Luke. He runs a car restoration business, like I said, with Evan Bailey. They don't work together. They were rivals. Anyhow, he also races cars on the side to get that adrenaline going, and that comes into play later in the book. But he went from being kind of a playboy to really wanting to be with Melanie, and I just absolutely love his characterization. He's very interesting because he's a gearhead. He's smart, he is cunning, and he will do anything to protect his family and the people he loves. And I love him very much. He's a very good character, and I would recommend this book. So moving on to M, I have to give it to Mallory Adams from Easy Magic by Kristin Proby. So this one's feels small town, but it's not. It takes place in New Orleans. This one's a part of the Boudreaux family series. Mallory has a special gift. She's an empath, she's a clairvoyant, and she's a medium. So she can see the dead, and she can talk to them, and she can feel things that are happening. So Beau Boudreaux ends up moving in over her shop because, well, he owns the building, but he didn't want to be where his sister was at their family estate, because that old family estate, which was a plantation, she opened it up as a bed and breakfast for her and her son. And he decided after she got into a relationship in a previous book, he needed to give them space, so he moves in while his house is being built. For Mallory, Beau is her person. He is her soulmate because she can't read his thoughts. He keeps her calm, and when all this stuff is happening, because she's lived with this gift, for her it's a curse, for all her life. And she lost her grandmother because her grandmother helped track down this serial killer. Well, the serial killer, who also has the same type of gifts that her and her grandmother had, he's coming after her. And it is so interesting the way Kristin Proby wrote it. So you have the small town feels, you have the found family feels, you have the magic in it with her abilities, and we start meeting a coven of witches and stuff in this book, and it's just so well done. I highly recommend this book. This is a really good series. She's such a strong character. She does everything she has to do to protect everybody, but she also allows Beau to help her. She knows she needs him, and I just absolutely love this book, and I love Beau and Mallory together. Mallory is such a great female character. I highly recommend checking this book out. Now let's move on to N, and that's for Nyx, the Ever-Knowing, from the Immortals After Dark series by Christi. I'd be remiss to leave her off. So Nyx is such a fantastic character. She is trying to get all the fated mates together, and she does so in such a kind of a ruthless, somewhat twisted and very fun way. She is a Valkyrie, and she knows that they're in their apocalypse era, and she's like, okay, they're gonna have this battle, so we need to get all the fated mates together so it can be equal. And so she's like setting these people up. She does things that are very questionable. She's basically has lost her mind at this point, where she forgets her shoes. She has a pet bat that sits on her shoulder, and she is so funny. I absolutely love her character, and I love that she will always take care of her Valkyrie girls, and she's the only one that can stand up to Lothair besides Ellie. So I love Nyx, the Ever-Knowing. She is a highlight in this whole entire series, and this is a 21 book series. So now moving on to O. So I found Ophelia from Forged in Blood by Sadie Kincaid. This is a wide cheese vampire romance where Ophelia is our human, but she doesn't know exactly her background, and that she's actually more than just a human. And it is the funniest book, one of the funniest books I've ever read, and in a good way. The guys are all gone for her. She's a very strong heroine. She will stand up to them. She stands up to the people who are hurting her or try to hurt her boys, and she can actually make an earthquake and set fire to stuff when she's full on in passion and anger and stuff. I absolutely love it. She is very methodical. I like that she knows her own mind and that she'll do what she needs to do. And I love this book. I love the second book. I'm waiting for the third book to come out on audio before I finish it. It is a lot of fun. I highly recommend this book if you want a good romantasy. That's why I choose. And then for P, I have to give it to Poppy O'Connor from Pucked Off by Helena Hunting. This one I think is book 5 in the Pucked series. So this one is a lot darker than the other ones. The other ones are more rom-com-y. Lance Romano was abused by his mother, and so he doesn't like to be touched by women. So Poppy met Lance when they were younger. She went to a party. She ended up participating in 7 Minutes in Heaven, and she ended up in a closet with Lance. So fast forward to present day, she goes to a party. He doesn't recognize her. And she's like, well, why would he? She thought she made an impression with him, but Lance is very, very damaged. So she just leaves that party disgusted. And she is a massage therapist. He needs to have massage. He does not want the team's masseuse to help him because it's a girl and he doesn't trust her. He's sent to Poppy. At first he's like, no, absolutely not. I don't want a woman to touch me. And then she's like, well, let's just try it. So she does, and he is calmed by her because he's not just what happened to his mother. He was really played with by another character in this book, to the point where it was manipulative and it was sociopathic what the other character did to Lance. And Poppy really helps Lance get his head on straight, helps him deal with all his demons and to stand up for himself after what that girl did to him and what his mother did to him. And she's actually the stronger character in this book than Lance is. Lance is definitely the more damaged one. It doesn't turn sexual right away. It actually turns into much of a deeper connection and relationship. I really love this book. This is my favorite book in this whole entire series. This is a book I reread more than any of the other books in the series. I highly recommend this book. It is so well done. And she is very strong and very unchangeable. And I loved her. So go read that book. Moving on to Q, I'm giving it to Quinn Montgomery from Riffs and Refrains by Devaney Perry. This is a small town rock star romance, and Quinn, she is our rock star. She's a drummer for the band Hush Notes. She goes home after to attend her grandmother's funeral. She was very close with her grandmother, not with her parents, because her parents were very devout Christians and did not like the fact that she was a drummer for a rock and roll band. So she comes back and she's kind of combative a little bit. Graham was her friend. He's a single dad now, and his son really takes to Quinn. And there was always something there for them when they were younger. But with Quinn and everything was going on with her, she just, as soon as she was 18, she was out and she went to Seattle and she met her bandmates. I really liked her because she was willing and able to change and to expand her viewpoints more. I loved her relationship with Graham and his son, and that she wanted to work things out with her family and not be so estranged, and the way she took care of her bandmates as well, as she was the only girl in the band. Listen, this book I feel like is an underrated Devaney Perry book. I highly recommend you check this one out. This is book 2 in a series that she wrote with Serena Bowen and Rebecca Yarros. You don't need to read the other 2. I highly recommend the other 2, but you don't need to read the other 2 in order to read Riffs and Refrains. So for the letter R is Roman Hammerstein, and he is from If You Love Me by Helena Hunting. This is her latest book in the Toronto Terror series. I love Roman. He's the goalie on the Toronto Terror hockey team, and he's a single dad. He had his daughter very, very young, and when he had his daughter, he was not going to date. He was not going to do any of the shenanigans that other hockey players have done. He was very much the dad of the hockey team. So this is very much found family. He meets our heroine Lexi at a bar. 3 years earlier, they were watching a baseball game, and then they had a weekend stand, more than a one-night stand. It was a weekend, and they thought about each other for 3 years. Now she's hired by the Toronto Terrors as the new assistant coach. Now she's the guardian of her 2 younger sisters. One was a teenager and one was 9 or 10, 8 or 9, something like that. She worked with a group of men who didn't like her because she worked as an assistant coach in a male-dominated sport. And so when she reunited with Roman, the sparks that never really went away flew again, and they ended up having to sneak around because they fell in love with each other. They weren't going to deny that they loved each other. The reason why they had to sneak around was this was forbidden. She could lose her job and her reputation, especially in a male-dominated field. They would have seen her as a gold digger instead of the fact that they had a past and that the feelings never went away. He's such a big book daddy, like he's a husband material. He took care of his daughter, he took care of her sisters, he took care of her. He did not want to do anything to jeopardize her standing with the team or in the NHL as a whole, because he knew that she was one of the best coaches they've ever had. He was more than willing to sneak around until he retired in order for her to be able to keep her job. He was looking out for her. He was very much a nurturer, and he was also very strong and stoic. I absolutely love him. If you're going to read any book in this series, this is the book you need to read because of this character and because of Lexi. But Roman is such one of the best male characters that Helena Hunting has ever written. I highly recommend this one. And now let's move on to S. And I could not give it to Sebastian St. Vincent from The Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. This is book 3 in the Wallflower series. He was morally gray. He was very much morally gray. If you are a dark romance reader, he would be a character you would love. He did things in book 2 that were absolutely 100% questionable and not good. He took Evie up on her suggestion that they get married in Gretna Green. She needed to get away from her family, who wanted her to marry her cousin, and then they were basically going to kill her for her fortune that her father left her. He needed money because his father basically squandered the family fortune. So he's like, okay, in order for their marriage to be legal, they had to consummate the marriage, and he became obsessed with Evie. It was obsession. His tendencies were very questionable, but he fell hard for Evie, and he did everything to take care of Evie and her father when her father was dying. Then he took care of the gaming hell Jenners and really elevated Jenners to the point where later books how it became one of the best gaming hells in London. So he is definitely a darker romance girl's wet dream. So if you haven't read that series, you really need to read that series. Okay, moving on to T, and that is for Theo Silva from Reckless by Elsie Silver. Theo has a one-night stand with Winter. She ends up pregnant, and he wants to take care of her. He's a bull rider. He is very charming, very flirty, very, very happy-go-lucky, and Winter's very grumpy and very mean. And that did not deter him in any way, shape, or form. He wanted Winter. He went after Winter. And he supported her and loved her. When he found out that he had a child, he was like, why didn't you come and tell me? He figured out why. He got mad at the people who did not pass on the information. He's like, I'm going to be in your life, and I'm going to be in my child's life, and that's just going to be it. And I absolutely love him. He's fantastic. I would recommend, I'm sure you all well read that book by now, but Theo Silva, he's my favorite hero from that entire series. Okay, U is Uliam, I think that's how you say his name. So it's Uliam McCreeve from the book McCreeve. This is in the Mortals After Dark series by Kresley Cole. McCreeve is a werewolf shifter. His fated mate is not only the daughter of a guy who held him captive and tortured him, but she is also a being that killed his father and his pregnant mother. And he blames himself for their deaths because of what happened, how that being manipulated and basically assaulted him. He was sexually assaulted as a kid from this being. And his father and his mother tried to stop her. And so he has those scars. He was willing to get over the fact that his fated mate was the daughter of a big enemy, a guy who had him tortured for being part of the lore. But he had a really hard time getting over the fact of what she was. And he had to work through it. And I really love how he grew as a character. And I love how he was willing to overlook things, but also to hold other people to account. And he was a very strong hero, even though he felt like he did wrong to his family. he had to learn things, and he did. He was able to learn and grow. He wasn't a stagnant character, and I absolutely love him, and so I had to give him that spot. Then for V, I did Vance Sutter from Crimson River by Devney Perry. Now this is the 5th book in the Eden series. I probably know a lot of people have read this, but I really liked Vance. So Lila Eden owned a local coffee shop, and she was a workaholic, and her sister tells her to go take a hike. So she goes take a hike, and then she ends up meeting a hunter by a stream, but this hunter tries to kill her. He chokes her to the point where she felt like she was about to die, but he takes up and leaves. Well, Vance Sutter comes in, and he's looking for this guy, and he ends up in a relationship with Lila. He is so protective. He's trying to right a wrong for something that had happened to his partner and stuff. And I can't really say any more about that because it will ruin the book if you haven't read it, and I really want you to read this book. But he's very protective over Lila. He falls for her, and he's a strong, stoic character. He is a very well-written male character, so you need to go read that book. Then W, I'm gonna give it to Ren from Crescent City. This is book 1 in the Crescent Creek series by Tessa Hale. I keep saying Crescent City, but it's actually Crescent Kingdom. For some reason, I keep saying Crescent City. So Ren is a wolf shifter, and she's in hiding. She's an empathic werewolf shifter, and she escapes her dad, and she learns how to fight and take care of herself because there's nobody else who are going to do that for her. She didn't feel safe until she got to her guys, but she didn't know they were her guys. In the small town where she was working as a waitress at a bar, and she knew there was something about them, but she was hiding, so she had to hide her powers and stuff, so they didn't realize right away that they were fated mates. And she does everything she can to keep them safe from her father and from her past, because she learned right away that her father would do anything to get her back because she's a very powerful being, but also he wanted to break her down and to make her less empathetic and more strong, like an alpha. So this book is coming out very soon. This will come out 3 days after this video is posted, so you really need to go pick this one up. I highly recommend it. Then for X, I'm going to talk about Xavier from Say You'll Remember Me. Xavier, he had my heart when he refused to put that dog down. A woman decided she didn't want to have the dog anymore, so she's like, I'm just going to put it down. So he pretended to put it down and then adopted the dog. And I was like, okay, I love you. That's it. No more than that was needed for me to be in love with this guy, okay? Anyone who ever does that to a dog. Anyway, so he meets Samantha, and Samantha gives, and he's definitely grumpy, but he's a genuinely good guy. Samantha's very feisty and very sunshiny, and there's a lot going on in her life. They meet, she puts him in his place. They meet again a month later, where she needs travel documents for a kitten. He asks her on a date. They have the best date ever. It's an epic date. So this is very much instant love. However, it has to be instant love because he really bends over backwards to be with her. He does more of the traveling to California because she had to move. So this is a long distance relationship. He realizes what he can give up and what he can't give up, and he realizes he can give up stuff, the material stuff, but he could not give up Samantha. He is the biggest reason why I gave this book 5 stars. So let's move on to YA for it. Yasmin from Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is book 1 in her Skyland series, and this book, it takes you on a journey. Her and her ex-husband Josiah, they really are soulmates. They love each other. She ends up losing the baby that they were about to have, and it breaks them up. They start to co-parent. Her kids are very not nice to her because of what happened. There's just a lot of stuff that happens. She goes through a lot of mental health struggles after she loses her baby, and then she loses her husband, and then things happen with her husband, and they have to find their way back to each other, and her kids do not help with her growth. She's so strong and just so brave, and I absolutely love her, and I love this book, and you guys need to read this book if you haven't. So the last letter is Z, and I have to give it to Zeus from Welcome to the Dark Side. So Zeus he's a big badass, but very much a cinnamon roll and loves Lulu for everything that Lulu is. I love him. He meets Lulu when she was really young because he saves her life, and so that might be a deterrent, but however, they are equally matched in their minds. They're equally matched in their temperament. They're equally matched in their maturity level. He is the president of an MC biker gang called the Fallen Men. He does things to help his children and to help his brothers. He is definitely morally gray, more on the darker of the gray side because of some of the things he's done. However, he is gone for Lulu. He sees her as his soulmate. I really like this book. I think Gianna Darling can write really fantastic, well thought out, but also these characters feel real. I love these characters. I love this book. I highly recommend it. So that's my A to Z romance list for romantic characters. They are just well-written characters that feel like they could exist in the world that we live in. Even Nyx. I love Nyx. Nyx is so fun. Anyway, let me know if you read any of these down below, and let me know if you are gonna check them out. I would love to know all the things. And if you made this far in this video and you want to let me know what you hear, please leave me a lightning bolt emoji, because Zeus is the god of thunder. And until next time, my friends, happy reading. Bye.